All right. Well, thank you for joining us today in this live multiverse event. Everybody that's come to join us, very excited to announce a new strategic partnership with Checkpoint and VedX. As you all know, we do these every 2 weeks. We're dedicated to educational VR casts here in the multiverse and Infiniverse. And if you miss it, you can always go back into the room of the person we interviewed and see that happening through one of our portals. So anyway, with no further ado, Tamer, tell us a little bit about who you are and what Checkpoint is.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you for having me. Checkpoint it's a Media 3 brand. I think that's probably the best way of putting it. What does Media 3 mean? It's another one of those great phrases that means nothing really, but it's the way in which we are trying to evolve media content and distribution across Web3, blockchain, multiverses, VR, AR. So we're a content creator primarily. We make content about video games, so magazines, podcasts, interactive learning materials, all that kind of cool jazz. And yeah, we look at the impact of video games on society, culture, politics, and education. So we take a very highbrow look at what we can learn from video games and how video games can help us understand the world around us better. So we use video games as a vehicle really to understand things, and we serve children and adults alike.
Well, I think you're in a good audience here today. We're all sitting here with our headsets on, watching this stream. So, myself, I wish somebody would have told me when I was young that I would be running a virtual reality company, because it would have taken so much angst out of my 20s. Because before 20s, I was in video games since the first Atari. I had every single one. And one of my job interviews I actually came out of, and they said, how did your critical thinking skills around this? And I was like, to be honest, I spent a lot of time in video games, and especially in the puzzle games, Kid, like I told you before, Tamer, Kid Icarus, Zelda, the things that drawing dungeons and classics. It's so exciting when I found out what you guys are doing and your mission. I mean, tell me, I want everybody here to feel more about your mission too, yourself, and what you're doing with this.
So we want to how do I answer this? It's such a big question. At the core of it, video games are a great leveler, right? So it doesn't matter what your cultural, religious heritage, whatever that background is, whether your socio-economic background, whatever your background is, everybody, and I mean everybody, has some knowledge or access to a video game or a video game character or something. Video games are ubiquitous in their nature, good ones. And if I say, it's like saying to somebody the Beatles, as a band, everybody knows who the Beatles is, or everybody knows who REM is. Do you know what I mean? They have that following. Video games have a similar thing. It doesn't matter where you go in the world. If you say Diablo, people know you're talking about. You say Mario, they know who you're talking about. Sonic, they know who you're talking about. So what video games do, and this is something that we talk a lot about within our learning materials, is they eliminate, and I think I've explained this to you, they eliminate cultural baggage. Now, what does cultural baggage mean? Everybody talks about cultural capital, which is really important. So cultural capital is the shared knowledge or the shared cultural knowledge that a society shares. So for example, in the UK, part of our education system is Shakespeare. So our cultural capital will include Shakespeare. It'll include the Queen, it'll include the Beatles. That's the shared knowledge that this culture does. Now, what if you have come, like with most countries now, most at least developed countries, and I hate that phrase, but first world countries, have a huge diversity in their classrooms. So it's very unlikely that you will have a classroom with the majority of white British children. It doesn't happen. And I think you'll find this in every developed or first world, however you want to put it, G8, whatever, however you want to put it, country, right? G15 country. So what does that mean? It means if you come, say, for example, you come to one of these countries, let's just say, and let's use me as an example, because I used it with you. Now, I was born in this country, I was raised in this country, but I'm an Arab, I'm a Muslim, I'm Syrian. And I grew up in the 80s in the back end of a backwater in the United Kingdom that didn't see any ethnic minorities really of any description. That weren't doctors, local doctors, that typical thing, until the late 90s. So that gives you a good idea. Now, in that time, obviously, we go back to Syria quite a lot. And, you know, I lived in Saudi during the Gulf War. So anybody that leaves Lincolnshire, which is where I grew up, obviously gets to experience it. But anybody really at that period, we were buying olive oil from a pharmacy, just to put that in context. So that's kind of how backwards it is. So what does that mean when I go to school? It means that and when I went to school speaking Arabic and French, because Syria was a French colony. And my mum went to French school when she was younger, and she wanted to teach me the Latin-based alphabet. So she didn't speak English when she moved over to the UK. So I spent my first couple of years speaking Arabic and French. And actually, this book was hugely
The Little Prince. Hey, I love The Little Prince. I can't wait to see The Little Prince in VR one day, right?
Oh, well, we'll talk about that. But yeah, so I grew up speaking. So my cultural baggage was Arabic, Muslim. So when I went to school, I wasn't on a level playing field. I had to learn very quickly how to communicate and converse and be a good English boy, ultimately. Fast forward till we moved to Saudi. When we moved to Saudi, we were on an American air base. We were actually on the stealth bombers. So we were the first people to see the stealth bombers in action. And I went to an American school. Now, at the age of 10, 11 years old, going to a brand new school in a different country with a different curriculum, with different cultural baggage, is so complicated. So even things like sport, we didn't play football or soccer. We didn't play rounders or any of these. No, we had softball, we had American football, we had circus training, we had tennis. Tennis was the only one that I kind of connected over from the thing. So when I went to Saudi, I took my Mega Drive with me, or the Genesis at the time, which was the English version of the Genesis. Amazing things. And on that, I used to play NHL hockey. I used to play baseball. I used to play NBA Jam. I mean, awesome games. So I was acquiring cultural capital off the people that I would eventually go to school with using that video game. So I went to an American school.
That's where you say it's a leveler. When you say
it's a leveler. It allows people to act. So what do we do as Checkpoint? We take that cultural ubiquity of video games and we apply learning opportunities to it. Now, the learning opportunities come in a variety of forms. In the main magazine, we do op-eds and long-form features, which take deep dives into subject matters like space exploration, big data, localization, historical storytelling, retro gaming, the advances of technology, how simulators can impact your life. So we take all of these things and then we go and speak. Because of my background in journalism, we then go speak to industry leaders, not just games. We speak to the developers and we speak to industry leaders, and then we create audio documentaries.
Let me clear this up. So just to be clear, this is a print magazine or digital?
No, sorry, it's a fully interactive digital magazine.
Okay. For everybody watching, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows you're not going to find this.
No, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. What I'll do is and everything that we do, by the way, is free. Okay. It's just some models of our magazine. So we've got a whole back catalogue here. So here we looked at the history of this one's more about, this one was about zombies.
Resident Evil. Played every one of those.
Yeah, there you go. This was about tech. So when the next generation of consoles came out, we looked at the next generation of consoles. This one was all about Wasteland. And I don't know if most people know, but those that play video games, Fallout was created by the same guy that made Wasteland. And there's an amazing story behind it. And we've,
and you did a deep dive into that.
Deep dive into role-play
games. So interesting. And in each of these, you were saying it's an interactive
so let's take yeah, let's take this one, for example. This is the big data. So all of our front covers are animated, as you can see.
Love it.
They're fully animated front covers.
That's a great cover, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time doing these front covers.
So much there.
Everything that we do is interactive. So you can click on any of these things and it'll take you straight to the content. Every piece of content is supported by video, audio, or galleries or otherwise, because we don't want people to just feel like they just have to read. Some people aren't readers, some people are listeners, some people are viewers. So we try to cater for everybody. We look at, for example, this is a really deep dive, how video games are exposing the perils of big data. So we took a really deep dive into this specific magazine, and we looked at games like Quantum Break and Watch Dogs. And then we interviewed the developers of Watch Dogs and said to them, listen, you know, for example, do you guys know how realistic this is? How much research have you done? And, you know, they answered, you can listen to the documentary. We spoke to then Sam Lake, who's the guy behind Quantum Break, he's the guy that's written every kind of Max Payne and every kind of Alan Wake. So he's well known and he does a lot of research. So we speak to him. Then we speak to Alexis Conran, who used to be a scammer and used to do all of these things. So he knows how to collect people's data. And then we speak to Professor Alan Woodward, who's,
and that's great. You tap to play the audio, so I could sit here and go.
Yeah, and you can listen to it. And Alan Woodward, by the way, I'm convinced he's a former MI6 agent. He's used to work for GCHQ. He now works with Europol and Interpol. So we then go to him with all of our findings and go, right, what do you think?
Yeah.
And then he fills all the gaps.
Yeah.
So we take proper deep dives into these subject matters and we don't mess around.
And here we are in the Infiniverse, where now your checkpoint can become the magazine can live around us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so absolutely.
When
the magazine will be available in the multiverse for you to read, but you will also be able to see some of our featured content in the multiverse and in the Infiniverse as well.
Will each episode be a room, or each issue? Sorry, each issue.
No, it won't, and that's because it's just so overwhelming, and because the Infiniverse and the multiverse isn't our only outlet, right?
Yeah.
What we want to do is showcase the best of our content on the multiverse and the Infiniverse. We don't want to just. But eventually, Jay, the idea is to move all of our content into Web3 and into the multiverse. And one of the things, as you know, that we're working on right now with Future Tech Labs is to try to make this Infiniverse and multiverse ubiquitous. So you don't need a headset, that you can access it from any device on any platform.
Yeah, and play stands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like those audio play stands are like, you could type in your interviews there.
So we've already, I mean, as you very well know how the multiverse works. So you know exactly what you're going to be thinking is not very far off, Jay, I'm sure, and we haven't spoken about it, but you know the potential and you know the multiverse like we do. So you know what the potential is for us to be able to do. And by the way, what I just showed you is one of about 12 properties within Checkpoint.
Yeah. Let me, I don't want to rush through this too much. I've got to keep it down to the 20-minute mark for the live show here today. But what I want to ask you too is tell me a little bit about this token idea that we had talked about. Tell me a little more about your token.
Yeah. So because we're not tied, because we're a media brand and we're a content creator, one of the most important things for us is to get to as many people as possible on any platform. One of the things that we are very uniquely placed and we're trusted to do, and you can find all of this in the orange paper, I'm not going to go into too much detail now, but we're quite well respected within the games industry and within the journalism kind of fields, thankfully. So one of the things that we need to take advantage of, and one of the things that's really important, is mass adoption of blockchain and Web3. It's really, really important. And it's really important for us, and not just for us, but for our readers, our viewers, our listeners as well, because that is the digital world. Whether you like it or not, it's here.
Mm-hmm.
We either jump on board and we try to control it, which is the decentralized system.
Look around.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Here we are. So we either take control of it or we don't.
Yeah.
And if we don't, the big conglomerates are going to do it again, like they did with Facebook, like they did with Google, like they did with Amazon. So it's really important that we allow our users to understand what a Web3 or a blockchain or an Infiniverse or a VR experience looks like, and how and why it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we wanted to do was mass adoption for the Cardano network specifically, because we're on the Cardano and we've minted our token on the Cardano blockchain. And one of the ways that we wanted to do was kind of shift that model of shares and investment into tokenomics and into the blockchain, so that when people join us, they've got an integrated wallet already in their experience that they can then buy. What is it, Jay? It's basically Robux or V-Bucks and what we're doing is we're creating an in-game currency effectively in one side, but also a governance token. So from an investment perspective, people can then buy shares in the company, and that will all be done through the blockchain. Now we're doing it a little bit differently. A lot of people have heard play to earn, but we're doing engage to earn, and this is really important. So what it does is it means that anybody who's staking our tokens will get a reward in airdrop of stable coin, not even Cardano based. So a stable coin, in any revenue we make, we take a percentage out of it and we give back some of that to our stakers, to people that are staking the token. So there's a whole tokenomics model in there, and what we're trying to do is just make it easier and more accessible for the layman to access it, because it is a scary idea, this idea of a whole digital world with digital currencies and digital identities and digital avatars. It is quite daunting, whereas we can mitigate that with our audience by creating that experience and mitigating that risk, and we don't collect any data. So
now, if I wanted to see the orange paper for everybody that's out here watching us today, if I want to see the orange paper, can I go select somewhere in your store or your rooms to read it or download it?
You can, not through the VR, not through the multiverse. I will add one though, Jay, now that you've said it to me. So I will do it. I'll do that this evening. But you can go direct, if you just type Checkpoint orange paper in your search engine, it'll come up. It's a Gitbook thing. And if you want, I can share the address.
That would be wonderful. In fact, I think by the time we finish up this live stream right now, we'll have that address back behind us, so you can see it on the wall. We'll throw it up there at the live stream, so don't worry about typing it out here. Now I have just a few other questions before we wrap up here. Number one, how many subscribers? I mean, you don't collect the data. You've made that clear. You don't collect data. How many subscribers do you currently reach now? And how do you know that?
Across the brand, we reach around probably about 500,000 people.
Wow.
I know it's not massive. And I understand that, but what's really important to know is that our audience is highly engaged and highly, we don't lose them. So we don't have a transient audience. Our audience is absolutely engaged, and they will explore the whole brand. How do we know it? Well, we know it from basic statistics. Obviously, like with everything, we have basic statistics for analytics. We know, for example, how many people have downloaded the bedtime stories. We don't know how many times they played it. We don't know who it is. We don't know where it's gone, but we know how many times it's been downloaded. We know how many times the magazines have been downloaded. We have a little bit more kind of analytics through our third-party publisher on that, because they collect data. We don't. So we have a little bit more insight on that. Our learning materials are being used globally. We don't know how many times they've been downloaded. And one of the things that we want to,
because
we are, sorry,
I want to point out here, free, right? So let's touch on that.
Everything that we do is free. Everything. So we don't charge for anything. I truly believe that the end user shouldn't be paying for this. I truly believe that corporate social responsibility should be exactly that, corporate social responsibility, where corporations invest into projects and properties like yourselves and like us that give back to communities. And that is our model. But we're lucky, because we are a content producer, to have advertising space that we can take advantage of.
So corporations, everybody watching, because there are some entrepreneurs here watching today that have enough social responsibility money that they might want to donate. They can all donate to Checkpoint to help this along.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we are happy to take anybody's money.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. But
is that via
actively
search it?
Is that via a certain platform that we should go to, or should we put that link up too?
So what we tend to say to people. So there's two reasons. The governance token is so important for us at the moment, because that allows people to invest safely into Checkpoint. Not only that, I have to say also that we're going through the Financial Conduct Authority, which is the financial authority in this country to make sure. So we're going through all the clearances and having our money laundering things put in place, because we're going to be, even though we don't have to, we want to show everybody that we're doing it. So people can invest directly into the token, or if you're a game publisher or a developer and you want to talk to us, then we can talk about writing a bedtime story. We can talk about doing stuff in the magazine. We could write lesson plans around it.
Oh my gosh.
We did it for Sonic. We did it for Sonic. And actually, if you go to the orange paper and you look at the orange paper, the video there's a little video in there about how we use Sonic the Hedgehog to do a design and technology lesson with a group of children. We call them pupil premium in this country, which means that they are low ability, low socioeconomic, no interest in education, but they switched on immediately.
Switch on for the video game. There's so much more here I want to take forward. So if you don't mind, and everybody watching, what we're going to do is, this is kind of going to be an intermission of a month, and we're going to come back for volume 2. So because there's so much I want to ask you about the bedtime stories. I want to ask you about that curriculum. I want to ask you about some of the success stories, and so much more than just, because Checkpoint's so much bigger than just a magazine. It's a mission, it's an idea, it's an integrated move, a cultural shift for education, moving to the blockchain and stopping big data in the process. I mean, there's so much more. So on that note, I'm going to leave you one more thing. If you wanted to tell anybody between now and the next volume of our web VR cast, what would you say?
Just go check out Checkpoint. I mean, literally, if you go to our multiverse, we've created, and I'm going to take Jay in now because we haven't been in together, but I think we've got something like 12, 15 rooms already, and each room is focused on the different properties that we have. We have a room, we have a room for the magazine. We have a room for the kids magazine. We have a room for the learning materials. We have a classroom. We have a room for the bedtime stories. We have a room for the kids artwork. And by the way, that's the other thing, it's democratization of content. So what we need, the kids magazine, which we launched, and we'll go into that more detail the next time we talk, because I think it's really important. But the kids magazine is for kids by kids. So we encourage children to produce content to send to us that has been inspired by video games. And we will always put that content in the magazine or in our multiverse. There's a whole gallery already in the multiverse of the kids' contributions. So the kids that we've had have actually sent their artwork, and we've made an actual gallery for them.
I haven't even seen that. I've got to go see that. I've got to go check this out. So you're watching today, go check it out. In fact, you're watching right now in the Multiverse campus. Look behind you, there's a door, goes right into their lobby. And then another one that goes into the waiting room. So take a look behind you, head through there. And then Checkpoint, you can find it in the VEDX portal of the campus VR cast at this point going forward. And amazing. It's a movement. It's more than a business. It's more than a magazine. It's really a movement. So come join and check it out. Tamer, thank you for the interview today, and look forward to seeing everybody out here in volume 2 of the interview. So thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Bye.